Have you ever wondered why people disagree so strongly about politics, remember the same event differently, or react so emotionally to climate change? All of these connect back to a simple idea. Our minds rely on two different modes of thinking. Psychologists call this dual process cognition. Today we'll look at how it works, drawing on research from multiple peer-reviewed sources. According to the dual process model, the mind uses two systems, Type 1 and Type 2. A good analogy is a camera with auto mode and manual mode. Type 1 is auto mode. As Alper and colleagues describe, it is fast, effortless, and automatic. It handles everyday reactions, recognizing familiar faces, forming first impressions, sticking to routines, and making quick judgments using shortcuts. Pennycook and colleagues show that people who rely more on these intuitive responses tend to adopt beliefs more quickly and rely heavily on common-sense explanations. We need this system because it keeps life efficient, but it can also mislead us when situations are complex. Type 2 is manual mode. It is slower, more deliberate, and takes real mental effort. This is the system we use when solving new problems, questioning our assumptions, or overriding our gut reactions. The cognitive reflection test illustrates this. Intuitive answers feel right at first, but Type 2 is required to compute the correct solution. Type 1 works well for simple, everyday decisions. But in high-stakes or unfamiliar situations, like identifying a suspect or evaluating climate policies, relying on Type 1 alone can produce distorted conclusions. This becomes especially clear in politics. Alper shows that Type 1 is more strongly associated with conservative thinking, while Type 2 is associated with liberal thinking. Conservatives often prefer familiar social structures and straightforward answers under uncertainty, patterns that mirror Type 1 processing. Liberals tend to engage more with multiple viewpoints, question assumptions, and tolerate ambiguity, patterns that fit Type 2 reasoning. This link appears across cultures. Yilmaz, Karadöller, and Sofuoglu found that in Turkey, people who scored higher in analytic, Type 2 processing were less socially conservative, suggesting that cognitive style and ideology are connected even outside Western contexts. Alper and colleagues also describe a conservative shift. When people are stressed or mentally drained, Type 2 weakens and Type 1 steps in. Under these conditions, even liberals show more conservative responses. In other words, when mental energy dips, our political judgments can shift with it. Dual process thinking is also crucial in the courtroom. Memory feels trustworthy, but as Loftus shows, it is vulnerable to Type 1-based errors. Gronchi and colleagues demonstrate that intuitive thinkers are more prone to false memories because they rely on familiarity instead of checking details carefully. For example, when witnesses see all suspects at once, they tend to pick the person who looks closest to their memory rather than verifying each face analytically. Jurors often assume memory functions like a video camera, but memory is reconstructive. This misconception relies on Type 1 common sense, not reality. And when people encounter misleading information after an event, Type 1 easily blends it into their memory. This is why eyewitness testimony, even when confident, is one of the least reliable forms of evidence. We see similar patterns in climate attitudes. Steg shows that people often rely on quick, emotional judgments rather than careful analysis. If a technology matches their values, like solar power, they assume it is entirely positive. If it conflicts with their values, like nuclear energy, they assume it is entirely negative. These are Type 1 shortcuts. Many environmental values function as unquestioned truisms, another sign of automatic processing. People also tend to choose climate-friendly behaviors because they feel morally satisfying, not because they've calculated financial or environmental benefits. Steg notes that introducing financial incentives, which rely on Type 2 thinking, can even weaken emotional motivation rooted in Type 1. And habits pose a barrier. Driving is an automatic, Type 1 behavior. Alternative choices like biking or taking the bus require Type 2 planning. Across politics, the legal system, and climate debates, the same pattern appears. Type 1 gives us speed, but it can mislead us. Type 2 gives us accuracy, but it takes effort. Both systems are essential. Type 1 allows us to function smoothly without overthinking every choice. Type 2 steps in when accuracy matters or when our instincts may be biased or incomplete. As all our sources show, these systems explain why people can interpret the same situation so differently. Some rely more on intuition, others rely more on analysis. Both styles have value depending on the context. The goal isn't to favor one system over the other. The goal is balance.